Parshat Behar and Bechukotai. Once again, we have a double parsha, Behar-Bechukotai, and I would like to talk about one of them, the second, Parshat Bechukotai. As usual, this shiur is dedicated to the memory of Rachaleah Bas Rav Chaim Tzvi. So let us begin with the beginning of Parshat Bechukotai, chapter 26, verse 3. In Bechukotai telechu, if you follow my decrees, Ve'et mitzvotai tishmeru, and you observe my commandments, v'asitem osam, and you do them. V'natati geshmechem b'itam, and then I will give you your rain at the right time. V'natna aretz yivula, and the land will give its produce. Ve'etzas hadeh yitain Prero, and the trees of the field will give its fruit. This is the section of the Torah called the brachot, or the blessings. And that's what I would like to discuss today. At the very beginning of the blessings, in verse 3, you have a conditional statement. The part of the deal we have to keep in order to receive these blessings from God. And they are, if you look again, three things. Number one, if, Bechukotai telechu, you follow my chukim, or what some might translate as decrees. Ve'et mitzvotai tishmeru, and now we come to the second condition, you observe my mitzvot. Va'asitem otam, we have the next and, which tells us that we come to the third condition, and you do them. And then verse 4 continues with the blessing or the reward if we keep these three things: God's chukim, His mitzvot, and we do them. So what exactly are the difference between these three? What's the difference between a chok and a mitzvah? What is the difference between following something, walking in its way, between observing something, or shmirah, and actually doing something, asiyah? So let's see what Rashi says. Verse 3, In Bechukotai telechu, Yachol ze kiyum ha-mitzvot, kshehu omer ve'et mitzvosai tishmoro, harei kiyum ha-mitzvot amor. One might think that when we're told that if we follow God's commands, God's decrees, then following Hashem's decrees or going in His chukim means keeping the mitzvot. But we know it's not that, because keeping the mitzvot is the next thing it says in the verse. So then what does in Bechukotai telechu mean? What does it mean to follow God's decrees? Again, we know it does not mean to keep the mitzvot, to keep the commandments, because that immediately follows this. What do I fulfill by following Hashem's decrees? And here's the answer. That you should expend effort, that you should work, that you should learn the Torah with much effort. That is what Rashi says in Bechukotai telechu. What does it mean to follow Hashem's decrees? It means to learn the Torah, to work at it, to expend effort to understand what God commanded us. And what's the point of expending all this effort to learn the Torah? Well, then Rashi explains, Ve'et mitzvosai tishmoru, and you should observe my mitzvot, my commands. Hevu amelim ba'torah almanat l'shmor l'kayim. You should be working on the Torah. You should be expending effort to understand the Torah in order to fulfill, in order to observe and act upon and fulfill God's commands. So according to Rashi, this conditional statement has a couple of components. Number one, we must learn the Torah and try to understand what God is commanding of us. Once we understand what God is commanding of us, we can keep the next part of this statement, of our part of the deal, which is actually fulfilling the commands that we learned about. And then again, we have learning, observing, and fulfilling. What is the difference between shmirah and asiyah? Rashi doesn't say it here, but in other places we learn the idea that one of them means not violating negative commands, and one means fulfilling positive commands. Again, one is ensuring that I do not violate things that the Torah prohibits me from doing, and one is ensuring that I actually fulfill what the Torah commands me to do. Okay, this is Rashi's understanding of the part of the deal that we have to keep. We must learn the Torah, And then once we learn about it, we must keep the Torah that God commanded us. We must keep the mitzvot, not violate what shouldn't be done, and make sure to do what should be done. Sforno explains a little differently. I'm going to read part of it to you. Sforno says we have the whole phrase of following the chukim in other places. For example, in an earlier parsha, we are told, specifically in chapter 18, verse 3, we're supposed to serve God in the way that God commanded us to do. From that phrase, and the similar phrase here of, again, following the chukim of God, Sforno says we see that chukim are decrees that are filled in the daily routine of life. And we say specifically to follow, because when we're going about our daily life, we have to make sure to emulate God and to live a life that He would want us to live.